Good morning, Lumi. Good morning, Liam. And anyone else who may be watching. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good morning. Wherever you may be. Welcome to the wood. Come take a walk with me. Today is December 26th, 2024. Today we're going to talk about cycles. Since we're in the heart of winter, at least it feels like today's temperature is about 19 degrees Fahrenheit, making it close to negative 10 degrees Celsius. And we are walking comfortably this morning with a nice cozy hat and a warm leather jacket and snow pants, in a way. I got a nice cozy layer of flannel pajamas with some pants over those. So it feels nice. Feels good. I also have my trusty carnelian agate, which I was warming just before I left. So everything is go this morning for a nice walk. So let's talk about cycles. Of course, to discuss cycles, we need to talk about time. Has to have some part in it. Throughout most of my rants over the last few days, some knowledge has come through. Always there's knowledge. And I spoke about the sun as being the best example of God's manifold expression, because if you're just looking at it, it seems to be static. It doesn't seem to be moving. However, if you were to stop and take out a camera and record over the course of a few minutes, you would start to see it move. Or us in conjunction to it. However it is, however it's perceived, however it's scientifically described, the perception is right now, it doesn't seem to be moving. Until you start to look at it from a different perspective. Start to observe our position where the branches of the trees are. And you'll see over time, if you make a line where one of the trees are crossing the sun, that line is going to move. The tree isn't going to be in the same alignment as it was when I first started filming. And it's just a simple example of God's manifold expression. It's hard to see when you're observing it in real time, yet it's moving. So it's strange. It appears to be moving when we compare it to time, when we use time, and when we're present, it doesn't seem to be moving. Because when we're present, there's no time. See, it's pretty wild. So it falls into the camp of quantum physics. Everything and nothing at the same time. Which is why we can talk about cycles. Because cycles are technically an illusion if we're present. There doesn't appear to be any movement that we can notice unless we introduce time. A time lapse, speeding it up, whatever it is that gives us the perspective, must involve time in some way. Same thing goes with your life. Now you could be on a hiatus with a friend for a good number of years, and you could vividly recall the last time that you saw them and spoke with them, and the moment that you see them again after many years passing. You will notice differences in the way they look, sound, talk, what their interests are, more than likely, you'll see all these changes. If you were paying attention. And what's fortunate, I guess in a certain way, with social media is it gives us a chance to look at those markers, you know. Let's look at how we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We're starting to get to that point now where we can say 20 years ago when it comes to social media, because some of us have been embracing from Friendster onwards, social media, Friendster, MySpace, Facebook, Instagram, and on we go for over 20 years. I mean, there's children born into it. Lots of them, so, and there will be many more. So with that social media, we can take a look at our lives from a marker in time and see notable differences. Differences in interest, in places we've gone and seen. Differences in our friends, who we've brought in, as opposed to who we've distanced ourselves from or removed. Just, we get to see the change, and it's clear. Clearer than usual. Because if we're just looking at it from a small town, seeing the same people every single day, it would seem like no one's really changing at all. Not even in their appearance. So there's a blessing to that, because it allows you to stay young longer. And on social media, when you see yourself changing slowly, day by day, and review the markers, a year ago in time, 5 years ago in time, 10 years ago in time, then those are the moments when most of us, I would say, I'm assuming, would feel some sort of nostalgia or regrets, perhaps missing someone, wanting to know how someone's doing. And so we look into their lives rather than reach out to them, rather than host a party or reach out to have a gathering, send an invitation. You might send an invitation to an organized event, but you're not really speaking to the person the way that you would have talked to the person if you wanted to reconnect. So social media is a double-edged sword, as we already know, but this is part of that edge that we don't normally assess, and it's this idea of cycles. People coming and going, growing or regressing, as it were. Having experiences in life and thinking of them as the end-all be-all, the most important thing. And so every post is extremely important for one's character. For most people. And this is to our detriment. For if we place every moment in the past as more important than what we're experiencing right now, then we will be just like Ferris Bueller says. If we don't stop and look around once in a while, we might just miss it. God's manifold expression. And if you were to really look around here, it looks like a painting because these clouds are not moving. They're still. But if we were to let this time lapse go for long enough, you would see the movement, albeit slowly. So if we go back and check those markers on our social media pages, it's likely we'll discover a lot of change in ourselves, in others. But don't let that deter you from reaching out to the people whom you love, who you care about. Don't think of it as an excuse to catch up, as just going to their page, looking at some old photos, because those photos might be deleted one day. Who knows? The person might pass, their account could be locked. Beyond that, They might just unfriend you because you haven't reached out, because you haven't sent a message or a phone call. And they've already decided that in the most difficult times, you see, people will decide who their friends are. It's not when you have everything that you decide who your friends are, not your true friends. Your true friends are decided when you're down and out, when you call upon them. First and foremost, since I'm speaking to you, Lumi and Liam, you have to understand that your family, especially me, your father, I'm more your consistent guardian than your friend. Which is to say, we may not get along and the world may paint a picture of me that is pretty awful, you know. And I'm sure that's occurring because we don't talk, but I should be more optimistic than that. I should use my imagination better. I thought about this just yesterday during Christmas, since, you know, I tried to reach out to you but didn't receive a response. And I refuse to go through your mother now to communicate with you. So call it stubbornness. Personally, I would rather not give your mother any satisfaction in knowing that she believes to hold the cards in her hands when it comes to my access to you. Because I gave her a good number of years erroneously thinking that was the truth. And it's not. Whether I see you depends on me, and it depends on how I use my imagination. So I see us together right now. I see us on this path together. This billionaire's trail. Listening to the woodpeckers and the dark-eyed juncos. Listening to the chickadees. Saying, "Where's our breakfast?" It's on its way. Don't think about time. It's on its way. Through God's manifold expression. May not look like the clouds are moving, but they are. Same goes with the sun. Same goes with us. Same goes with our growth. Same goes with life. But once you're here, like the sun, like the clouds, like anything else that's here, observable, it faces the same rules and laws as anything else. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so you'll hear me talk a lot about how we're pure spirit, birthless, deathless, changeless, immortal. And I say that as a recognition of our truth. However, to be in this world is to be an illusion. The whole thing is an illusion. Because it presents itself in beginnings, middles, and ends. So that should be the giveaway. If you know you're immortal, yet this system has finite qualities. Anything that has a finite quality to it is part of the illusion. So as we learn more about cycles, coming and going, beginning and ending, being born and dying, we can come to this conclusion quite easily and immediately. All perception of time has been discussed before as illusion. Anything created in space through time is also illusion. Anything that is created in space has a beginning, middle, and end, perceived by an observing eye. The I am. I being the infinite, that which does not end or begin. A being the active principle, the walking principle, the andros. And M being the universal subconscious mind, or the mind of God, or the cosmic sea, or the cosmic consciousness, also referred to as Mary, or the Ma. And here is a beautiful checkpoint for us whenever I come through here in recent days. Right at this point, there'll be a discussion of the word Mar. So this is the Mar checkpoint, the universal subconscious mind. And now we've added to it, in the form of cycles, the words I am for you represent the Trinity. Same for me. I being the initiative, infinite power. A being the active, movement. The andros, which is the walking. And perhaps you've heard the name Alexander. Ender, andros. It's active, it's masculine. And you've heard the word mother or mater or mar. Feminine, receptive. Active, passive. Meets the infinite. What else can you think about this? What else can you tie in? This is the coldest part of the walk, so I'm going to leave it to you to try to figure out the rest. I'm just kidding. I'm going to give you the answers. When you say I, you're announcing your presence to God as an observer, whether you know it or not. When you say am, you are sending out the command of that which you wish to see manifest. Now, I am is in English, right? Every language has its equivalent. So, in Spanish, it's yo soy. Or it can even be divided. It could be yo estoy. So what's interesting in Spanish language, which is part of the Romance languages that spawned from Latin, you'll have two forms of the verb to be. One is for conditions of state of being, ser, to be, which is I am smart. So if you say I am smart in Spanish, you say soy listo. Soy being the first person conjugation of to be, which you already know, my beautiful children, because you speak so beautifully in both Spanish and English. The other form of to be is estar. So we have ser, which is an irregular verb to be, and estar, which is also an irregular verb to be. One is for action, and the other is for condition of being, state of being. Okay, so in English, it's nice. We just have to be or not to be. That's up to you. However, when you're using these verbs, it's the same as using the verb in Spanish tener, which is to have. So you're announcing to God what it is you are in possession of by being it. So when you say I have a cold, you're saying I'm in a condition of feeling sick. You've announced it because you felt that. When you say I have a cold, you felt sick. And because you felt it, it became an impression in the mind of God. All is to say, you're using the power of I, the infinite, A, the active, and M, the maternal, womb of creation, the shoreless sea of all possibilities, Mar, I, infinite, A, active, M, Mar. 3 parts, the Trinity, all included in a single phrase that is incomplete unless you understand its meaning. This is why when Moses went to Mount Sinai, had an experience with God, and wanted to know how to present this in ancient Egypt to the Israelites. And so he asked what God's name is, and he was told in return, I am. Other interpretations include, I am that I am who I am. Perhaps you've heard these as well, and we shall elaborate further. I'm going to take a few steps and align myself even further with the sun where we are here, because it feels so good as I warm my hands on this beautiful winter's day. So from the burning bush at Mount Sinai, Moses trying to figure out what this presence is. However you see this story, allegorical or historical, it's important for the reference when the Lord says, my name is I am. Falls in line with what I'm telling you. The infinite sends a signal of power, of infinite power, to that which you choose from the menu of life, which is the A, and that which expresses itself from your desire, which is the M. And when you say that, you're pointing out something. If you're saying who, it's the same thing. You're pointing out something. For we are made in the image and likeness of God as things. It's how God works. God works through things. We may be animated with the Spirit of God. However, the moment that the Spirit leaves, which is all we are, the body becomes a thing of the past, some would say. However, it becomes the possession of bacteria and anything else that wishes to cultivate and take over and proliferate and benefit from the resources of our body that we no longer are using, because our body is a thing. Our body is an instrument, and it's a temple of God. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be revered. I'm saying the Spirit is what drives it. The moment that your breath stops is when the Spirit leaves the body decidedly. And the brain fails after just a minute or two, except in extreme conditions that are outlying variables in this game of life. So, as I'm discussing with you this, it's just a repetition of these things over and over for you to start to grasp the truth. The truth of I am. So it could be a thing, it could be a person that follows I am. However, whatever it is, there is a command being placed that is the Word of God, I am, to create something. So it's the command to create things. And when we're talking about cycles on this day, it's very important for us to understand how I am works, because without I am, there is no manifold expression. There is no creation. At the same time, there can be nothing but I am. For without I am, there is no consciousness. This is why God responds in turn in this way, by saying, I am who I am. I am that I am. Perhaps you can start to understand what this means more. If you say I have, it's the same as saying I am. You're saying I am in possession of the thing which is in my hand, or the thing which is in my mind. It doesn't matter to the mind of God, because you're using I am. The moment that you use it, it's whatever follows. And you don't even have to say it. It's just the belief, it's the feeling that you are either in possession of or not in possession of a thing. And so we do this so naturally, so unconsciously, so quickly, that we never really take it into context in this way. And that's why I'm breaking it down so slowly, so that you can understand the power that exists in its use. For it is the command line of all things created. I am.
So then the question probably arises, how do we use this great power for good? If I know that whatever I'm using, that I am, whatever follows it is better, is made manifest, how do I use this well? Well, this is the best part of living life. Perhaps you can remember me saying to you that the greatest, most powerful faculty that you have as a human being is your imagination. Well, the imagination and the infinite are both an I for a reason, because they are one and the same. They are exactly the same. The infinite and the imagination both have no time. They both have no boundaries. They both have nothing and everything at the same time. No restrictions, and can be accessed at any moment, immediately, without any delay, and produce within such things, the imagination and the infinite, any possibility. So through the imagination, you know that any possibility can exist, because it is directly tied to the infinite. The infinite and the imagination are one. So what does this say about God, the concept of God? God is known as an infinite presence that's birthless, deathless, changeless, and immortal. Until we decide that we want it to be born or die, be changed, or experience something else. Whatever it is, we decide. And in order for that to occur, it cannot happen in the imagination in such a way, because it requires time to see the change, to see the cycle. And so we have to present whatever changes. I'm saying God has to present whatever changes we're desiring
In this illusory world, this life experience exists so that what we imagine can unfold, because it cannot unfold in the infinite. It can only unfold before us. Until we imagine it, it cannot be. And so we go into the imagination. The imagination says anything is possible, even though I'm birthless, deathless, changeless, and immortal. I am. Anything can be, including the illusion, the delusion, that I can create things for you outside of you that will change. But this outside of you is designed as the playground for things to change. This is the level in which you play the game. However, the back-end programming is the imagination. That's where the blueprints are formed. I pray that this is coming together now. I pray that this is being registered. I'm speaking clearly this morning, I feel it. You're starting to come into terms with your own power. So you can start looking at, if you want, your bank statements, I say. It's your use of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. How have you used it? Well, it depends on how you've used I am. So if you've been saying I am sick and tired of, that's how you've used your I am, to develop sickness and fatigue. If you say I'm fed up, it means that you have received your fill and want no more of the good stuff or the bad stuff. You won't receive it unless you feel it coming in. And then it becomes confusing, only to you, not to God, because whatever you're feeling the most is going to be expressed. So you could say lots of confusing things. Something bad could befall you, and sarcastically you could say, ha ha ha, I like that, bring me more. And the Lord will say, okay. For as a man thinketh, so shall he become. That's why you have to be so careful with yourself, not with the world, but in how you use this beautiful power. The imagination, when let to run wild on its own, is what you think. Just allows the constant stream of consciousness that's coming through your mind that can't be stopped to just run amok. within your most powerful playground. And then, from there, there's the introduction of time, in most cases, the future. If this doesn't happen, then what? If our sun doesn't move forward, then what? If I can't get this point across to you, then what? That'll ping-pong you back to the past. Well, if this ever happens again, see, you combine the future with the past. If this situation happens again, then I will be. And you're using I am to construct future, rather than access it in the now for creation. And so this sends a bunch of syntax errors to the programming language of your life. It's very discombobulated. It lacks organization. It lacks any sort of formulated thought process. And what it does is it develops into a habit of confusion and a routine personality. So your personality becomes that of routine. You wake up, you do something you don't like, you blame the world for it, you come back at the end of the day feeling defeated, drained because you're sick and tired of, and all God has done is reward you with whatever you've asked for. Sick and tired, full of disease, worried, broke, uneasy, depressed, sad, torn apart, betrayed, left alone when you needed help the most. All of these become narratives.
And you see, this is all part of the am, not part of the I. Very important to understand. It's a 3-part code. When you say I, the infinite is activated. You're using the imagination. Everything is whole. Everything is pure. When you say ah, and you start to begin am, you are using your decision-making process to choose from the menu of life that which you wish to manifest. Same goes when you say I have, right? The extensions, any verb, all ties back to the verb to be. Just very important to understand that any action is directly tied to this or ab or Abraham of the I am, the andros of the I am. And any m has to do with the motherly or matrix. If you look up the word matrix in Latin, just like you look up spiritus in Latin, you'll see matrix means the womb. We got a canine friend coming with us today. I don't normally hear dogs running up on me. We got one today. A cute one. Looks like a Samoyed. The person decidedly turned around and started running in the opposite direction. So the heart gets a jolt, the environment changes, come right back on track. So when you use the I, it's whole. When you're tapping into the it's the active choosing principle. You're discerning between what you want and what you don't want. And the M, the ma, or the mother, or the matrix, or the womb of creation, gives you that exhale, that expression, receives the command, and thus expresses it. Infinite, active, passive, or receptive, okay? And this exists every time you use a verb, any action word. I have, I don't have, and it also is used anytime you're using it in any other form of conjugation. So, to give you this example better, it is, let's talk about to be. I am, you are not. You can also use the negative. He or she is or is not. You, plural, are or are not. We are or are not. They are or are not. It is or is not. All of these are the use of I am. Once again, we're expressing it in this world. So when we say a sound, the sound has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Thus is part of the illusion. However, when we're using the words I am, we are extending ourselves as an interface of God to program what we like versus what we don't, so that we can play the game of life in a direct way rather than being on autopilot. It gives us our salvation through word, okay? And this is why the lesson given to Moses is so impacting. It's because it's the command code, the command line for living a wish-fulfilled life. The chickadee sing. He's telling all the secrets. Listen. Hello, chickadee. That's a little black-capped chickadee. One of the cutest birds on earth. The state bird of Massachusetts, because it's so revered and amazing and cute and feisty and curious. Gotta love the chickadee, the black-capped chickadee. Looks like one of those roller derby girls about to go to town and fight. Big helmet. Looks like Dark Helmet from Spaceballs. Played by Rick Moranis. A very hysterical film by Mel Brooks, who was a pioneer, is a pioneer in my mind, a trailblazer when it comes to comedy and film. Took a lot of chances in a lot of ways with the parody. First film to ever have a fart in a movie, Blazing Saddles. And at the time it was unbelievably hysterical. We hear fart noises all the time now because they're just unbelievably hysterical. I even do them from time to time on our walks, just to keep things fresh. So, the reason why I'm driving home this point on I am so importantly, so deeply, is because it's all it is. It's everything. It's all we are, is I am. And I is the infinite thought of God. A is the active principle which is given to us as human beings to make decisions. M is the manifold expression being impressed and expressing itself. So we're impressing God all the time. And when we speak, we are using his power. Why I'm saying he is because I think of God as a father. And you think about the way that he acts. He's all providing, all protecting, gives lessons, allows us to have access to things that will help us grow and expand, gives us the blueprints and the manuals to live a good wish-fulfilled life. That's what a father should do. Provide. And so the infinite provides. Always. There's no limitation for its provision. Nor will it ever judge us or label us. You see, we are given that power. It's a double-edged sword. And it's part of the am, right? And of course, when we're looking at active and passive, masculine and feminine, Ida and Pingala, positive and negative, giving and receiving. We're talking about polarity. We're talking about opposites. And it's absolutely necessary for the infinite to express itself through duality, through polar opposites. And there's a reason for this that's very profound. We cannot have life experience without light. And in order for light to be created, the electricians already know the answer to this, you must have resistance. Resistance from two polar opposites in charge. Electromagnetically produces light. And so you can't have light
without duality. So you must have these opposites, that of giving and receiving, the active and the maternal, the seed and the womb. The decision, the discernment, and its reception. You can't have any light if you only have one side. And so what this tells us is that gender is absolutely necessary. And there can only be masculine and feminine. Because if you're introducing something that's arbitrary or unsure or in between, what happens to the light then? Well, then it dims, you see? And this may upset a lot of people because of your belief system. But your belief system is created by light, and that light requires polarity. It requires opposites in order to even express itself through you. In order for the light to exist for you to develop an opinion through the ab, or the active, the masculine, you have to have the infinite first, the light.
So, you can't have conscious experience without light. You can't have the am without the I. And the I can't exist without the am. For that's the game of life God has given us as human to decide what it is we wish to bring about through our beliefs and our decisions. So, it's important to understand that we discriminate or discern all the time. We are presented with menus that have to do with the foods we want to eat, but not just that. It's whether or not we want to cross the stream or stay on the other side, walk to the left as opposed to the right, lean to the left as opposed to the right, choose whether to sleep during the day or at night, be a vegetarian or a carnivore, eat or not, live or die, be reborn or buried. We decide. And in this decision, light perpetuates. Because we have to have, at the same time of a decision being made, its opposite expression happening on the other side of the universe. How wild is that? So, in order for me to be a vagabond, broken down piece of meat, there has to be a billionaire version of me on the other side of the universe. In the middle of all that is light. The first person to realize that light and become it receives both the vagabond perspective and the billionaire perspective. And they live in the glorious expectancy of the good through the infinite imagination. So, this is why Buddhist monks and practitioners of Zen practice non-attachment. It's very clever, you see, because they know in order to be a billionaire, there has to be a vagabond. And they would rather not have a single expression of God suffer in order for them to thrive in whatever selfish expression they would bury themselves in. So they release and surrender it all, practice non-attachment, and become one with the I, the infinite imagination. So many have probably asked, why is it that these monks live as ascetics and live so simply and stay so still? It's because they would rather be directly embedded in the light of creation without any say in the matter than to be creating distortions of reality for selfish means. Which comes to the point, if I know this, then why would I pursue such worldly
pleasures? Yes, therein lies the rub, doesn't it? And I'll tell you, I never
used to feel this way about wealth, wanting it so, desiring it so strongly. Chickadees are singing. They normally save that for the spring. Why would I desire these worldly possessions in such opulence? It's because I paid it forward. I served as the vagabond, and I serve as the vagabond now, in order for the most beautiful expression of myself to also be enjoyed. That is the choice that I've made, to be the black sheep, the outlier of this life experience, and it's not for everyone. So yes, there is some version of Elon Musk who has deeply suffered. Whether he knows that is his choice. Also Jeff Bezos. Put anyone who is in a position of perceived power in your life experience, and you can be sure that some version of themselves is suffering. And until they can be still enough and serve enough people with what they have been granted in the form of wealth, that person on the opposite side of the universe will continue to suffer. So there is another way, other than being still and practicing non-attachment, to thrive while living a rich, wish-fulfilled life. And the way to it is not so challenging or difficult,
though for many, you would believe it is based on their behavior for those who have versus have-nots. The have-nots. And it is you have to love and serve. You must love and serve. So abundance arrives in your life because some part of you has suffered. And the light that's created in the middle of that is awaiting you. When you choose to love and serve, you enter the light. And you become one with the infinite. And you release and surrender whatever egoic drive you had. And instead, you use this flow of resources, which you know is provided to you by the Lord, the I Am, in order to love and serve your community. For one of the community members out there, or perhaps nations of them, represent the one part of you, the infinite part of you that is going through immense suffering on the other side of the universe and is seeking salvation, knowing that the only way it can receive salvation is from you, or by releasing and surrendering it all and unifying with the Christ within.
That's the I Am in its completion, in its completeness, and that is where I am now. So, anytime I feel like I have returned to the vagabond, I use the power of I am, the imagination, to return to my state of bliss fulfillment, wish fulfillment. And I just stay there as long as I need to bathe in those sacred waters. And all time disappears in the presence of the Lord. You could go and look at it if you record it on a time lapse, and you would see lots of movement. But in this moment with the Lord, it's an infinite moment in which time does not exist. Therefore, you can be at peace. And that's a cycle. The cycle began with, I felt need, I felt lack. Remember, to feel is a very powerful form of I am. For to feel is the result of using I am in a decision-making process. So you make a decision through the use of your verbs, and then there's a feeling. So to feel is the fruit of your I am. It's still an action verb because you are registering this consequence. This feeling is a registration of your action that your body is receiving in a form of feedback. So to feel is to feel the force feedback of God. And depending on how intense you feel things, the faster things come into your life that are directly related to the I am attached to the feeling. So there's an I am use, that use of I am. I have, I don't have, you don't have, they don't have, we don't have, we do have, we all have, all is one. Whatever it is, it generates a feeling. And then you say, I feel. It's the affirmation that what you're feeling was a decision made in the mind of God. It goes deep with the use of extra verbs, but it's still just the use of I am. So remember, if you are present with God, time disappears, and the feeling that is produced from that is always relief.
That's really the most important point to take home when it comes to cycles. You want to always return to the light that is being created from the polar opposite experiences. One on the opposite side of the universe that is just as good as you. So if you feel like you've had a beautiful day, pray for that version of yourself that had the most challenging one. Step into the light and invite that version of yourself to be still with you. Those are black-capped chickadees. I think if our wonderful farm worker was not on his tractor right now, doing his job,
You'd really hear these birds singing in a beautiful, peaceful way. But they're probably a bit alarmed by all the banging and sounds. They're just as annoyed that their song is interrupted by me as the machinery, I'm sure. And like that, the song has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Anything that is presented to this world is finite, meaning it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And here comes a neighbor running on the trail with his dog. Oh no, he's running away. See? Run. Just kidding. You may want that song to continue. You may want it to sound even more clear. You may want it to be harmonized with your intentions. And if you're not seeing it the way that you want, it is simply an opportunity for revision. Go into the mind, into the eye, the imagination, and imagine, which is to use the infinite mage, infinite mage, to imagine what it is that serves as the perfect song of your life. So when you imagine, you're saying, I mage, I conjure, I'm drawing up the blueprints of this perfect bird song. And I imagine myself being the conductor of it. And as I am the conductor of this song, I imagine the joy surrounding me in this moment of manifold expression. Man being magic essence, mana. I being the infinite, fold being, layering, frame by frame. God's man-I-fold expression. That which is expressed is pressed outward. X is out, press is to press. Expression. Man-I-fold expression. Okay? Every word that you use is a spell. That's why they call it spelling. Spelling. And ing being, what is it, the gerundive? I think that's how they call it in grammar. Any verb that is moving in action is given the ing termination. They call it in Spanish gerundio. It's a gerundive, I think it's called. Gerundive, I don't know how you call it. Doesn't matter so much. But it was the way for me to learn Spanish, I'll tell you. It was the moment it all clicked was, if I am present using the gerundio, then everyone else falls in line with what I say. I don't have to use the past. I don't have to use the future. I just use the present tense form of to be and add the ing ending. And then I can be in total command of my conversation. What happened to you yesterday? Well, I am walking right now, would be my response, because I wouldn't know how to use the past tense yet. I wouldn't know how to say estaba caminando. Ayer. Yesterday. I was walking. I had a walk. So what's beautiful about this is by using the ing ending, there's continuation. Suddenly, we've entered the present moment in a continuum. God's manifold expression through the gerundive ing ending gives you present moment living while communicating. That is a powerful asset, a powerful tool. See if you can go through an entire day just using I am in the present tense with ing endings to the verbs that you wish to manifest. There could be no more convincing way to impress the subconscious than to do that. For the subconscious will understand the command rather than give you a syntax error in return for using your verbs erroneously to create time. You see, when you are walking, you are not creating time because you are walking. It is the present tense. When you are eating, you are not creating time because you are present in eating. You're having an eat. And when you are opening gifts, you are not creating time because you are enjoying God's manifold expression in the opening of gifts. So, in the present tense, there can be no time. Very important. It's not I was, it's not I will be, I had, I will have. No. It's I am having the time of my life, being warm in my mind as the temperature drops in the now. I am warmer than ever before. I am. And here comes the end of our cycle in discussing this beautiful topic of cycles. You may notice that at the burning bush on Mount Sinai, the story I mentioned before of Moses, when he discovered the burning bush and learned the true name of God in I am, there are some renditions of this which state I am who I am and I am that I am. Joseph Murphy, the late Joseph Murphy, a New Thought practitioner, beautifully explains this in a lecture that I won't come close to doing justice, trying to summarize. However, I will draw this one point from it that stands out every time I hear it. He says, do not say, I am that I am, parrot-like, like Popeye. The reason why is because you are using the power of God. And when you use the power of God like a parrot, you make yourself out to be a fool.
When you're not. You are not a fool. You are learning, is all. You are learning about the all. If you can't have the sun because it's blocked by clouds and other forms of seeding, then you can at least have the stillness that otherwise would have been offered with the warmth. So let the clouds be seeded by whatever chemtrails and other garbage being pumped out there, for you're the creator of it. For some reason it's there, be it the matrix or otherwise. See yourself one with it, rather than opposed to it, and just be still. That second half of the prayer, I am that I am, as described beautifully by Joseph Murphy, is the cycle, the loop, the coming back around, the boomerang that is your wish. And it's coming from the voice of God. So use it with reverence. For when you say, I am perfect health, that is great. That's beautiful. Experience it. When you say, I am perfect health, I am. The Lord has responded in turn. And you have completed a cycle, a complete program that impresses the subconscious through the Father's will, the will of God. So don't forget to always bring completion to your prayer. It's great to say, I am, but make sure you're making the order as to what you are and have it come around. That low note I used to be able to get. I am getting it now. I love you now, and so I do. 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 We forgot that verb, didn't we? The verb to make, to do. We forgot that one. How do you do? What do you do? I love you now, and so I do. I love you now, and so I do. And so I do. In Spanish, it's hacer. The H is silent. H-A-C-E-R, hacer. In French, it's faire. F-A-I-R-E. In English, to do, to make, to fortify, to reinforce. The verb to make is a declaration of faith. I am making progress. I am making progress. I am. Oh, yes. I am. I love you now, and so I do. I love
do. Where do you think the Gregorian chants came from? Think they were just made up on the fly? I have a different story. I love you now, and so I do. I love you now, and so I do. Do you take this man or woman's hand in marriage? Very important statement. It states, I am placing in the hands of God this marriage. I am. For God does the bidding now of our combined efforts in the creation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a married couple. We say this verb, I do, as in I do believe. And to believe is to believe in the I, the infinite imagination, more than what is presented to you
as your supposed reality in this illusion of manifold expressions, this playground, as it were, of God. But it's not God's playground as much as it's ours, that of man. We drive our experiences by choosing from the menu every day what we want. Those results may not come right away, at least in our perceived reality. But the seeds are there in the garden, all the same. I was going to say the other day that some seeds take longer to express themselves than others. A basil seed, for example, could sprout in the matter of hours, as could other seeds that I can't mention the name of for the sake of people who are harmed by words erroneously. Such medicinal herbs as those I can't mention, but they grow quite quickly like a weed and can sprout in the matter of hours.
However, that of a bamboo tree takes its time, sometimes upwards to 5 years. There have even been some lotus plants where seeds have rested dormant in dry riverbeds for upwards to 1,000 years before they are found and germinated. Some seeds take longer to sprout and grow, but the moment they do, no matter the conditions, they thrive. For the work has already been done within. The bamboo tree is no exception. 5 years is the waiting time sometimes for it to sprout. And once it does, it can grow up to 1 meter a day. A full meter of growth in a day. In fact, this is a bit morbid. Lumi and Liam, you might want to cover your ears for this part of the discourse on this day. But the Japanese, who were very creative in their punishments and torturing techniques, used to take the worst of the criminals and place them right underneath a sprouting bamboo tree. And in the course of a day, that bamboo would grow against the will of the individual being held there, right through them, and impale them through God's manifold expression himself. For nothing could possibly get in the way of that expression of life, says the bamboo. Now you try to do that with a sprouting basil seed, and it will become like a bed of grass. Soon it will fade from a lack of air, sunshine, and otherwise solid structure, but not the bamboo. That'll go right through a human. And you don't have to press against it either. It will grow right up in through you. Truth be told. All right, Lumi and Liam, you can take your hands off of your ears. And put the subtitles back on. So it's all a personal choice. You see, while that bamboo was under the earth, in the darkness, without any light, it still had the blueprint of what glorious life it would have as a forest of impenetrable wall. Just glorious, strong, flexible food, shelter, weaponry, brooms, mats, tatami. Planning on being all these things. Woven into baskets, all these things. It already had in its mind. But most of all, it knew it would not be stopped. That it would proliferate and grow uncontrollably wherever it needed to go. It would. Until it reached the salty sea and then decide that's for the seaweed and that we have enough land here, says the bamboo. So we each choose our own path. We choose the items from our menu every day. Those expressions may be immediate, the results of walking in the woods, felt in the body, of course. We've been recording for almost an hour and 18 minutes now. On an otherwise cold day, I could tell you it feels like it's me liming with you at Katichi Point in cozy Virgin Gorda. Feels the same. Exactly the same. Except the air isn't salty and the breeze isn't so present. Instead, there's the stillness of the winter and the deciduous trees who decidedly gave up their leaves, and the call of the black-capped chickadees that I enjoyed so much, singing with them as best as I can as a lumbering oaf. But every day I work on that grace, you know. A little bit more, I work on it. I'm saying this to you, Lumi and Liam. Every day I become a bit more flexible like the bamboo, yet strong and fortified at the same time. Rich and abundant, unstoppable in growth. I love the bamboo. Other people would call it invasive. They weren't saying that when it was struggling for 5 years underground. Only when it shows its truth does it become a threat. Only to some. You see, to those who understand the bamboo is unstoppable, they adapt, they embrace it. They enjoy the swaying, bending expressions in the forests. They look up at the canopies of leaves and the thin, manifold expression that is so strong that only the most skilled samurai can cut through it with a perfectly sharpened katana. And then it serves as a reminder of how strong it really is and how much skill it takes to even leave a dent in it. Guaranteed you'll break your leg like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Kickboxer before you make any ground with the bamboo. And the panda bears, they eat it like candy canes. It's a joyous thing. You see, when those shoots are tender, you can at least do something with it. It's like the knotweed plant. The knotweed is very similar to the bamboo, and it grows here very invasively in New England, and it's a Japanese plant. Originally designed like other invasive species from Japan to retain water and structure in the soil, like the kudzu, very similar. And like the kudzu, the knotweed will seek out streams of water and will do anything to stay alive. And its rhizomes, even the smallest cut of it, could become a whole forest of knotweed soon enough. And many people call it invasive. In fact, real estate agents won't even sell your home. They won't even take it in their portfolio if they know that you have knotweed on there, because they know in its manifold expression, it will find its way underneath every foundation within the yard and just lift it, refusing to give up. That's Marcus. That's a bird I saved, by the way.
Hello, Marcus. It's not me talking like a crazy guy, it's true. The bird flew into a screened door because he was startled by a cowbird earlier this year, and he was out for the count. And so I went and put my hands around him and just asked the Lord to heal him. And his eyes opened, and I held him for a good while, and he didn't fly away.
And after enough time with him, beautiful Marcus, the American goldfinch, I decided I would help him launch. And I tried. And when I tried to launch him, he flew right back on my shoulder and refused to leave. My mother is witness to this. So that's Marcus saying hello on this beautiful winter day. After the songs from the black-capped chickadees, I could find no greater morning than this one, I think. Quite enjoyable here in the cold. Lyman, as it were. So the bamboo is beautiful, and whatever you decide to be, it's beautiful. Just know that those people who are on the opposite side of the perceived good, the vagabonds of the world, the homeless in the streets, they have a polar opposite of themselves. Somewhere, in some far end of the universe, that's truly enjoying tucking into their filet mignon leftovers this morning. Have a serving of pancakes afterwards and be bloated. So do not blame anyone, and do not be angry with those who have, on behalf of those who you perceive as having not. Whatever extreme you may be living in, there's an extreme polar opposite somewhere else. And that's the law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. You cannot avoid this law. For if this law were not to exist, there would be no resistance and thus
no light. And we must have light in order for the infinite to carry out its expression. There can be no creation without light, just as there can be no foundation without darkness. Lungs and roots. Canopy and hell on earth. Both are necessary. The sun, the moon, masculine and feminine, male and female.
So if you want to be in between, be in between. There's just no need to announce it. And there's no need to promote it either, because most will not want to give up. The victimized life as the vagabond, or the rich, opulent life as the magnate. To each their own. On this day and all days. Just be compassionate, I pray, for that opposite version of you. Seek that person out in others. So when you see a vagabond on the road, and you feel like you have all the things in the world, let it serve as an opportunity for you both to be present in the light through love and service. Ask yourself, what would I need if I were there? And how could I immediately accommodate this person if I were there? And thus I am using time correctly in this construct, for I am revising what otherwise would have been a moment of me stepping over this person and not caring at all for their well-being or what happens to them now or any moment in time until you're there. And then you'll want everything that you once had. So while I'm here, I pay homage to my billionaire self, and I let him know I'm happy to do this for his enjoyment, so long as he uses it correctly in the enrichment of his community, his family, himself, his spouse, his country, his planet, his universe, and our God, through love and service. So long as that is carrying out, then I know he's doing his part, and I'm happy to be here until we meet in the center where the light always resides.
And it's not so bad being me. In fact, I feel quite rich on this day. For a billionaire, couldn't pay $1 billion to have that bird song. That's what I know. That bird song was for me. The vagabond. It's worth more than $1 billion, if you ask me. For it is a confirmation of that which is believed as impossible, expressing itself. And I feel quite satisfied with this lecture today, this discourse. I feel within it holds your salvation. And if you believe that, I would really love to hear from you. And I mean this. I may not hit every single pitch that's thrown my way, but occasionally I do strike gold, and I feel I have today, thanks to the Lord. So please, show mercy. Share this. Ask in the comments why it's not being disseminated. That there be so much hate this time of year for someone who clearly wants to be on the opposite side of where he is. please send a donation to me. Send some money so I can enjoy some gifts. I would love that. I'm saying this to myself, the billionaire version of me.
Send me some gifts for my sacrifice, so I can live in comfort for a day, maybe forever. Wouldn't that be nice? For me to actually see it, rather than to just live it in the mind. It would be beautiful to see some grace on this day. So I'll leave for you in my comments or in the description of this video my Cash App, my PayPal, and my Venmo, and a Bitcoin address. And I would love to hear from you in that way. And until next time, keep wishing and wish well. God bless you. And God bless humanity in this beautiful country, the United States of America.